Hey guys, just another quick video for the Healthcare in Japan playlist. It seems there are a couple of people who are interested in these hospital videos. There's a couple of people who are coming to Japan in the future that had some worries about hospitals. There's one particular person who's got some health issues who knows if they come spend time in Japan they're going to have to go to a Japanese hospital at some stage. So there are a couple of people that seem to be interested. So these videos are for you. The people that are sick of them, that aren't interested in them anymore or never were, sorry, but you know, that you can see from the title and from the thumbnail what it is. So if you're not interested in them, then you know, please just understand that we're making them for the people who are interested, who do care, because to some people it's really important. You know, there's a couple of people. There's one guy in particular who said that his concern about the Japanese healthcare system, or his lack of understanding of the Japanese healthcare system, was stopping him coming to Japan. So obviously to some people, and these are the ones that tell us, there's other people of course who watch the videos who don't leave comments, so obviously to some people it is important, that's why we're making it. So this is a positive one, this is a real positive one. When you're in hospital and you're lying there looking at the ceiling all day, you have a lot of time to think, right? And there was one day in particular where it just seemed that every 5 minutes there was someone, sumimasen, and they come in and they excuse me, and they open the curtain and they come in, you know. And there was one day in particular I was trying to read a book, and they kept coming and they kept coming and they kept coming, and it sort of prompted me to make a list. Who's coming in, you know, who are these people that are coming in? And basically what's happening is really good attention, getting some really good attention from the staff. So I made a note just to give you an idea of what sort of attention. So first of all, of course, you've got the duty nurse, and depending on what you've got going on, obviously if you're just about to go into an operation, or you've just come out of an operation, or if you're getting a blood transfusion, or any of those sort of situations, obviously you're going to get a lot of attention. Blood transfusions in particular, usually in Japan, they will stand beside you for the first 20 minutes that the blood's going in and monitor your blood pressure and monitor your general well-being for that first 20 minutes to make sure everything's okay, and then they'll go away and they'll come back every 5 or 10 minutes until the blood's all gone into you. So a few procedures like that where they'll either stand and watch you, or they'll be giving you lots of attention. They'll keep coming back and checking on you and things like that. So obviously there's that sort of high attention type situation. However, once things settle down, or if you're in a condition that's stable, that doesn't require a lot of attention, usually that duty nurse will be looking in on you every hour or so. You know, they'll come in and they'll take your blood pressure and they'll take your temperature and that sort of thing, ask you how you're feeling, and ask you 100 questions about all your bodily functions and so on. So of course that's sort of fairly standard, right? We get that going on all the time. Then, interestingly, the surgeon visited after the operation, or before the operation and after the operation, the surgeon visited every day. And usually in the morning about 9 o'clock he'd come in, and around the time of the operation, of course, he's checking and having a look and so on. And then after that it was just asking how you're doing and anything. And of course he knew all that because he'd be looking at the computer. But every day the surgeon came, every day at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and often he'd come a second time at night, and usually about 9 o'clock at night. So at least once, often twice a day, the surgeon would come to see how it's going. And he was doing his rounds, of course, so he was going around the ward seeing his patients around the ward. And then there was a senior nurse on duty, and she'd come at the beginning of each of her shift. And the change of shift, the senior nurse comes in and says, "Hello, I'm the senior nurse for this shift, and my name is," even if you already knew who she was, and sort of the very formal "Yoroshiku onegaishimasu," you know, and she'd come in, and then she'd come in randomly during her shift just to see how you're getting on, and to check just drips and things, you know, put drips on, take drips off. The duty nurse would do that usually as well, but you know, she'd just be coming in to have a look, make sure the drip hadn't stopped, and make sure it was all good. And then of course you got adding the different things that they'd be putting up drips for antibiotics and putting up drips for painkillers and that sort of thing. So a fair bit of activity from the duty nurse and from the senior nurse as well. And then you got the food server. So of course 3 times a day the food server would come in, sumimasen, come in with food, put the food down, go away, hour later, come back again. So that's 6 visits a day from the food server, right? And then interestingly, the anaesthetist came and visited a couple of times before the operation, and then of course you see on the day of the operation there's the anaesthetist, you know, and then directly after the operation the anaesthetist comes. So the anaesthetist is very heavily involved in monitoring your drugs. So even though it's the actual surgeon himself who's prescribing and so on, he seems to do it in consultation with the anaesthetist. So the anaesthetist was more than an anaesthetist. He was sort of like the drug specialist. In my mind, in English, he was the medicine man, because he kept coming in. He came every day. He came every day, and even when things were stable and everything was okay, he still came every day, and he actually spent more time than the surgeon did. He'd stand there and talk for 10-15 minutes. He'd ask about which medications were working the best. As mentioned in another video, we had 3 different types of painkiller, and he talked about which ones were working the best and that sort of thing. And he was interested in all the drugs, whatever drugs were going in, and he talked about that, and he asked if there's any concerns. He was brilliant. And then he actually did speak about or discuss the general condition too, the actual operation, the result of the operation, the ongoing, you know, issues and so on, and the actual whole picture. He was into discussing that as well, even though it's not really his thing, that's really the surgeon's thing. But just the point I'm trying to make is the interest and the attention that was shown, you know, 10-15 minutes a day from the anaesthetist, at least, every day he came without fail. And then there was a doctor on duty that used to come out, sort of like a senior surgeon. He seemed to get respect from everybody, including the surgeon, seemed to defer to this guy, sort of an important guy. And he'd come in, a big fanfare, he'd come into the room. The nurse would come first and say, he's coming, you know, and in they'd come. And he had another doctor with him, and then a couple of interns and somebody else, and just this big group of people had come in, you know. And he'd examine me and make some comments, and then off he'd go, off to the next patient, you know. So he was there every day. There was another doctor that was sort of like a ward doctor that used to pop in. They had trouble taking blood at one stage, and he'd come in and he'd take blood from the groin area, you know. Nurses aren't allowed to do that here, but he'd just come in and take blood from that artery, you know, on the groin. And just a random ward doctor just would appear. He'd come in at least once a day. Who else? Oh yeah, then we had the sort of like the cleaning people. So there was one person that would come in once a day, a cleaner would come in and sweep the floor and mop the floor underneath the bed and around the bed. Another person would come in and say, do you have any rubbish? They would take away your rubbish and your empty pet bottles and all that sort of stuff. Is that everybody? So you can see the attention was just amazing. I mean, it was just constant and just amazing, and everybody seemed compassionate. It's interesting the difference in a previous healthcare video. We talked about how in the clinics here, sometimes the dentists and doctors in the clinics can sometimes be a little bit aloof and a little bit special. You know, I think they're a little bit special, and the nurses treat them like they're a little bit special, and quite often you get a bit of an aloof feeling from them. But in the hospital, there's nothing like that. They seem to be really down to earth, really compassionate towards the patients and each other. The doctors seem to be really considerate towards the nurses. You know, occasionally you'll hear a doctor telling a nurse that, you know, that needs to be done better, or that's not quite right or something. But everybody, the atmosphere is really positive. Everybody's really nice. Everyone's really kind. They're always asking about if you're in pain. You know, you're in any pain. And we made a video about that already. You know, sometimes they can't do much about it, but they're always asking and they're always showing compassion. So it's just amazing. It's really impressive. It really, really is impressive. And, you know, overall, you'll have a positive experience if you have any sort of hospitalisation in Japan. It's likely to be a positive experience. The only thing that we keep coming back to is the English thing. Is if your Japanese skills aren't very good, you're going to have a hard time. It's just hard to imagine how you get through it without good Japanese skills. But if your Japanese skills are up to it, everything else is just good. You can trust them. They're very professional, very efficient, very compassionate. Just really, really good. Their systems are really, really tight. So they're really super careful. Talking about the blood transfusion before, two people have to be there to start a blood transfusion, and they actually read off the number on the bag and the number of the patient, and they read them at the same time to make sure they match. And they've got lots of procedures like that. Super cautious. They're forever scanning your wrist to make sure they've got the right patient, and then they scan the drug to make sure it matches. So all going into a computer, right? So if there's a problem, it'll tell them. But they're also always asking asking your name and your date of birth constantly. So the procedures are really pedantic, which probably if it was a post office or a bank, you'd probably get sick of it, because a lot of it's really repetitive and really, you know, again. But in a medical environment, of course, it's reassuring, because you know that they're being super pedantic and super careful. So they're really good. They are really good, and that attention was just amazing. And then of course, you know, nurse call button. So if you need anything, you just push the button. Hey, wow, my time's up. I can get some more. Painkiller. Bang bang. And they'll look at, before they come, they'll have a quick look at the computer, and they'll appear with the painkiller in their hand. You know, as an example, because they're staying on top of it. And ding dong, oh, he's called us. Oh, what's he want? Oh, he wants his painkiller, and they'll appear with it. Here it is. So they're really good. They're really good, you know, really good. Can't speak highly enough of them. So anyway, there it was. Excellent attention from the staff in Japanese hospitals. More videos coming soon.